Yo, what's good, everybody? This is Mr. Composition, the MC that writes fiction. And today is Saturday. Today is Saturday. This is the last podcast of the week. Tomorrow is my no podcast day. And then we get back going on Monday. Let me tell you, going 3 weeks in a row in this has been very interesting. What it has shown me during this process is, with the priority being putting out the podcast, you know, um, there's certain things that start coming about in that process. And some of the things are great to put in perspective, you know, but they're not necessarily, they shouldn't be put to the forefront. So things like knowing how many listeners you have or how people are engaging with it, those are very, very important, but not as important as continuing to stick with it. Reason being is that people are going to those people are gonna come, basically. Like you hear it all the times, the fans, the money, like it's so interesting because it's like, and you heard me say this on this podcast several times and other episodes as well. But there's like this little, not even magical thing that happens, but it is a combination of you continuing to do something, a ritual for yourself, a routine for yourself, and continuing to do something and show up for something that you like doing, or just to show yourself that you can do something positive to get some results. So because those things would naturally come up, like your listeners or engagements and different things like that, it does allow you the space and the opportunity to ask yourself those important questions. So, who are the people listening? How are you communicating with them? How are you communicating in general? Does that have to do with the large or the small amount of plays, different things like that. So this week has been a week of, at the very least, continuing to put out podcasts. Some of the other things I wanted to do, for example, that I wanted to stay consistent with when it came to this week in general, was things like the stories. I didn't put a story out every day, but I did put it out most of the days. Another thing that I wanted to do was, let's see, brainstorm week 2. Okay, so it was stories every day, messages, and scheduling. Um, Several things that popped up this week. Um, there was still the coming to grips as far as with the Chadwick Boseman passing. There's a lot of that all throughout the week showing up on different social media platforms. And a lot of those things raised a lot of questions, you know. Um, and I felt like this idea of perspective has been popping up very interestingly enough in this year of 2020, because I had just seen this article. I just read it actually from The Guardian, and the title of it is "Nearly All Black Lives Matter Protests Are Peaceful Despite Trump Narrative Report Finds." So it goes on to say, in the stark contrast to right wing claims, 93% of demonstrations have involved no serious harm to people or property. See, there's an actual organization that documents this type of stuff. So it's further along, it says the new data on protests and the government's response comes from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, ACLED for short. And this is an organization that has long tracked political violence and unrest in regions around the world, together with Princeton University's Bridging Divides initiative. So there's a legit organization that looks at this type of stuff. Now, these are people that get reliable, it's viewed as a reliable source of information in regards to the death toll in Yemen, the civilians killed by governments in Africa, and political violence against women, among other conflicts. So recently they had launched, the ACLED had launched a U.S. crisis monitor project this year, concerned that the U.S. is at heightened risk of political violence and instability going into the 2020 general election. So, what's so interesting about this particular find is, I knew that. There's some people that I know that, but what I hear, despite knowing this, is the complete opposite. And this is why perception is very, very important. Perception and perspective. Because you have a lot of people who are just all like, Black Lives Matter is this militant, thing, da 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 da. And you hear people's reaction as far as with that range from what you're talking about are isolated incidents that have been, glorified, and then it can range from that to it ain't even like that, basically. And that is very important because you hear a lot of people that they just hear the word Black Lives Matter and they automatically have a negative connotation. But due to actual studies and from organizations that actually document and follow this type of stuff, the majority, like not literally 93%, and just to give you as far as a kind of range on how many protests they were doing it, so between late May and the end of August, ACLED and Princeton researchers documented 7,750 demonstrations. So 7,750 protests associated with the Black Lives Matter movement in more than 2,000 different locations across the United States, as well as more than 1,000 protests related to COVID-19. Now it says about a third of the COVID-19 protests were linked to schools reopening, the report found, all of them peaceful protests. There were also at least 70 documented protests over COVID-19 involving healthcare workers and at least 37 demonstrations focused on the eviction crisis. Now, they did find a troubling trend of violence from both the government forces and non-state actors. Now, it showed that the government authorities were more likely to intervene in Black Lives Matter protests now than any other demonstration, and also were more likely to intervene with force, like using tear gas, rubber bullets, and pepper spray, or beating demonstrators with batons, researchers found. And so they went on to say that out of 392 documented incidents this summer in which government authorities used force on Black Lives Matter demonstrators. So, what these statistics and what all this is saying is that not only are the majority of the protests peaceful, but even within those peaceful protests, the government's response to specifically the Black Lives Matter protests, even though the majority of them are peaceful, is to intervene with force. Then they went on to say that, in a surprising find, that the protesters, force would go up because of the government's presence. So, because the government is responding to a peaceful protest with violence, the protesters' response to that, because they were already peaceful, is to they showed a rise as far as their response in a violent way. Now, even within that, because we have to remember, these are all all incidents as far as the ones that have violence. Still within those, it doesn't mean that in all of the interactions that were violent that included the government, meaning that they all responded back in violence. No, it was just showing that it was a jump in percentage that there would be. It wasn't the case all the time. And so why this is important, because the perception and the perspective that's being put out is something opposite. And so you have people who, without doing any type of research or any type of whatever, is just going with what is being said. So they don't even have an issue as far as with the movement or what it means, but because of the negative connotation behind it, they see Black Lives Matter and they see a military type of mindset and destruction and all of those different type of things. But studies show opposite, and studies actually show that the people that are actually being violent is the government. Like, this isn't there's literally a whole organization that does this type of research, and so what's even more interesting as far as that is, within the documented incidents as far as this summer, individual perpetrators, sometimes linked to hate groups like the KKK, have launched dozens of car ramming attacks targeting demonstrators around the country. Now, when we have to look at these violent acts that are being done, the majority of the violent acts that are being done are from hate groups and the government, not the protests. That's literally what the studies are showing. The majority of the violence that are happening at these protests are not from the protesters. They are from hate groups reacting to the protesters and the government. That's not no conspiracy theory. This is literally from The Guardian, and they cited their sources. Let's go to the actual, whatchamacallit that they had. Where is it at? The death of, whatchamacallit. Yeah, literally, they have all their stuff linked. This is not anything that is, this false whatever. You know, this is reality. And why that is very important is because when we look at a lot of things, there's a lot of things that you look at that are not the way that they're being told. It's not the way that it's being displayed. You know, it's important to take the time to really understand what's going on, because we're affected by this. You know, whether that's your mental health, your emotional health, your physical well-being, you know, with wondering and stressing as far as about this stuff. So, you know, I didn't it's not like this was trying to, you know, ease into this, but it all ties in with each other. That's how, like, deeply knitted this stuff is. You know, there was another article that I was reading earlier this week, you know, and okay, let me actually bring it up, because it was actually, I was just like, you know, this is no shade. This is no shade. This is just wondering, like, how this is, what's going on, you know. Where is it at? Here we go. Found it. TikTok star Charlie D'Amelio is the youngest to make Fortune 40 under 40 list at 16 years old. So let me tell you. So this is what the story is. This is her story. So, I believe this is Caucasian. Um, on her particular TikTok account, it says, "Don't worry, I don't get the hype either." Um, Now, with all of this, so she's been doing dances on TikTok. Now, within a year, she has a Super Bowl commercial, a Hollister partnership, and a namesake drink at Dunkin' Donuts called the Charlie under her belt. And how they do it is, the list reflects both those who have established that impact over time and those who are rising stars in their respective industry. In a little over a year, she's become the most followed star on TikTok with 80 million followers. She has fostered dance crazes, redefined how the platform is used, and become one of the most visible faces of youth culture. Now, it goes on to say it was over a year ago, in July 2019, that a video D'Amelio posted went viral for the first time, and according to an interview she did with NBC. She started literally from there receiving opportunities to dance on stage with BB Rexa during the Jonas Brothers Happiness Begins tour, perform at the NBA All-Star Game, and attend Milan's Fashion Week with designer brand Prada, and was a guest on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. This was it was so crazy that her parents packed up and moved to Los Angeles to pursue more opportunities brought forward by the girl's expansive management team. This all happened within a year. Now, virality happens in all different types of stuff. But Charlie is in the list of Forbes, one of the highest paid TikTokers. securing number 2. Charlie has made 4 million in the year since she first posted in 2019. So here's this. So Keith Dorsey, who has worked in the influencer space for over a decade and created his own management company solely for social media influencers, explains that, you know, the recognition of D'Amelio is important to people everywhere pursuing careers in this space. Being an influencer industry since Vine, I'm super pleased to see the trajectory of this industry is shifting into some amazing things. Now, it's very, very interesting because as I was thinking about this, literally, because I was just thinking, like, how in the world is she getting these opportunities, like, flung at her? Now, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes as far as with a lot unless it's being told. But literally, it's so funny that as I was sitting here and I was just like, you know, what is it as far as that these TikTok stars or whatever are getting like these like crazy like ridiculous over the top opportunities, you know? And I wasn't wanting to make it a color thing, but when I first originally saw this article, the one that I just read, underneath it, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't there this time, but I still have it in the history. It says, from Yahoo Life as well, as dances go viral on TikTok, black content creators find they're left out of the fame. Now, this was very, very interesting because here it is. When it comes to social media trends, this is from the article, there's hardly a kid between the ages of 14 and 24 who hasn't heard of TikTok superstars Charlie D'Amelio and Addison Rae Esterling. Together, they have nearly 50 million followers on TikTok alone, have become synonymous with viral dances like the Renegade, Holy Moly, and Gimme Some, and have performed in public arenas, the most recent being the NBA All-Star Game, and has even been signed to the United Talent Agency and William Morris Endeavor Entertainment, respectively, to work on launching digital content. Now, Essence Marie and Anaya Rice, meanwhile, are two of the biggest names in their community of dancers on Dub Smash, and together have amassed nearly 2 million followers on Instagram. Still, they've been unable to amass the following of Charlie and others on TikTok. That's because when it comes to viral dance videos, there seems to be a parallel universe based largely on race, in which white kids dominate on TikTok while everyone else seems partial to a 2014 app that actually predates TikTok, Dub Smash, a short form video sharing platform where outgoing content creators can showcase their talents mainly in dance and comedy. Now, based on the New York Times published a feature that shows the troubling segregated backstory. This came out last week about the 14-year-old Georgia native Jalea Herman and her creation of the original Renegade. So the original dance move and song, like the original dance, was created as far as from this 14-year-old Georgia native. This 14-year-old girl. It was created by her. Now, like I mentioned the Renegade. and I mentioned who are the Charlie D'Amelio. Sorry if I butchered her name. Um, that she's not getting nearly the opportunities that this 6-year-old girl is able to amass in a year and to make the Forbes list in a year. Again, this is not to hate on her. This is to shed light on, again, perspective. This is what this podcast may be. Now, this coincided with a tweet from K Camp, the artist behind the song Lottery, by which he gave Harmon a shout out for helping with the success of the song through her viral dance. Just 2 days later, Harmon finally had her big break performing her dance at the NBA All-Star Game and receiving recognitions from the likes of Kim Kardashian and Michelle Obama, and she has since appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show. Now, neither D'Amelio or Esterling responded to Yahoo Lifestyle's request for comments. Each graciously responded to the news that Harmon had created the Renegade by posting a video featuring Harmon. This is the black girl that created the original Renegade, and these viral people on TikTok are now, doing it. And what they ended up doing was they made a video featuring Harmon in which the three of them, so D'Amelio and Esterling, who have gotten all these opportunities by doing her dance and as far as other dances that I'm pretty sure were originated possibly by someone of color, but we're gonna say specifically this dance. So this recently happened. This article was posted, oh no, this was February 24th. So yeah, I mean, this happened this year. So after, as far as all this recognition and everything like that, what those two do is they decide, oh, okay, let's go ahead and feature her in it, but we're gonna be in it as well. That's just the way that's literally the way it looks to me. And but that literally, it goes on to say on this article, but that overdue recognition was hard won. And observers say that the delayed Renegade credit is just the tip of the iceberg in the viral dance world, and just the latest, most visible example of cultural appropriation to dominate pop trends. So a lot of people literally the original just found out that the original Renegade that they have been doing was from this black girl. Now, what's interesting is there is this TikTok group. Now, let me remind you, there's plenty of ways of going viral. Like, literally on there's some black artists in general that I've seen was able to make stuff go viral, but they are not getting nearly like, we have to sit up there and set certain stuff like on our own, and basically have to go out and get these particular opportunities if we even know that what it is that's even going on. All the while, in less than a year, you have someone like D'Amelio, who has a full-fledged management team and everything, so they can be able to vet and do all of those different things. I don't know what her life was prior to this. I don't know what her parents do or did as far as prior to this or anything like that. And I'm not going to say that, every black creator is in need of, this, and this. But if they're creating content, no matter what color you are, obviously you're looking for a way to expand your reach. And just with a lot of the things that are going on, a lot of black artists do not get those same opportunities, even though this is where it originated. So there's a collective on TikTok called the Hype House. Those influencers are predominantly white. And when I look at, as far as this picture of the Hype House, there's no one of, like, I think maybe there might be someone that's like Asian or Chinese, but there's just pale people in this picture, you know. And I'm not gonna go into reading this whole article and everything like that, but I want to just point out, as far as those particular things, I don't know where things are headed as far as with everything, but I can tell you that people are fed the fuck up. You know, people are fed up. You can continue to say that this isn't a race thing or all different types of different things like that. You have people, literally, this is what's going on. Just to put it into context, you have white kids who are doing black kids dancing and getting the opportunity that those black kids should have gotten. Period. That's exactly what we have going on. Now, when we look at influence, what causes for people, what it is that you do causes for people to take action. Large amount of people to take action. Historically, when we look at who has the most influence in entertainment all across the board, and especially when it comes to content creation, we're not going to sit up here and go through things like Vine, even things like YouTube. A lot of these platforms, even Twitter, a lot of these platforms got their big boost because of our engagement with it. And what I'm seeing a lot of times is, especially with very specific things, that's why, like, the way that a lot of this goes on is it'll make you feel like you're crazy. Because yes, in some cases, in a lot of cases, there are situations that are completely in our control. But again, when we look at that particular meme that was going on, and it has, as far as, this like a white guy, and he's kind of just all like, he's saying something smart, basically like, why aren't you basically where I'm at, or whatever, or you're lazy or something. And it shows literally all the weights and obstacles and everything. So our path as far as there is not the same. As you've seen, this was a prime example of, because to sit up here and to say that white kids are the most influential group of people, I would really want to sit there and debate that. Now, are they treated as such? Yes. Yes, but that's what's so interesting about a lot of this stuff is even with those particular opportunities, you have someone, you know, from, said, hood, or, just a family that, didn't have much, come out the blue, come viral, amass all of this stuff, and not get the same opportunities. The same people are not reaching out. You know how influential putting that person would be. But there is a narrative, whether consciously or subconsciously, that you keep on giving these opportunities. We're talking about literally, this is what that article was saying. That's what, as far as with the TikTok, that's what the article was saying as far as the peaceful protests. In the case of the TikTok, like I said, you have, in regards to this renegade, so you have the originator who created this, and let's just say it was on Dub Smash. This dance, and it's viral and everything like that. A lot of people are doing their renditions of it and everything like that. But what's going on is you will have someone like D'Angelo. Keep on butchering her name. It's not being disrespectful. You have someone like her who will then do the dance that was originally done by the black girl and go viral off of it. Not even give credit to her. And you wait till everything kind of comes about, and then you do with another famous TikTok influencer from dance. Y'all do a video with her, and y'all are just like this is, our way of whatever. The black girl set it up there like, yo, I'm gonna go, y'all got this many followers, I'm gonna do what it is that I'm gonna do. But these are the people that are sitting up there, sitting with. She has a Dunkin' Donuts drink name. What in the world? All of these different things just flying at her, to the point that her family literally, for one, could afford to move because of the opportunities that were there, and the opportunities that were literally coming to her. I'm pretty sure that there are the originators of these dances that could really use that. Like this is another thing about perspective. Dude, you cannot equate the amount of followers and money. They're not the same. Because you have a lot of influencers, black influencers, all race influencers. But I want to say specifically, you can have a black influencer with over 1 million followers on all platforms, and legit followers too. They didn't pay for them or anything like that. Engagement, everything. They can have on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And hell, even on TikTok. You can have 1 million on all of those platforms, and they can still be broke. And not in the sense of of course, if you have, this type of thing, you got merch, you got everything like that. But in comparison to maybe someone with a fraction of influence and followers, but just enough, that other person, more than likely white, will get that opportunity. all of the different sponsorships, and have this. What they'll end up doing a lot of times is, because of our influence, they'll be like, yeah, we'll give you this free thing to rock, or something like that. But these other people are getting straight up deals that have them set to continue to be able to make stuff, with the security that, my financial situation and like my family, all my needs are met with what it is that I like doing. you know and that brings up a whole nother point, of the people who get to actually see the financial income, or the financial, um yeah, just being able to be financially taken care of when they interact with something that they like, and they're not forced to do it. Not saying that black people are forced to do these different things, but they will do certain situation of influence, but they're like kind of not. You see it happen all the time in rap. How many rap artists, and I'm a rap artist, like I'm an MC. I actually just make sure you check it out on SoundCloud. I just released a track called Lift Us. Little shameless plug. But when you hear the stories of a lot of these rappers, you will hear that, a lot of them did want to do music, but there's some of them who was just all like, yo, this was just an easy bag. Like, you know, or they it was almost like like being in, like joining the military, doing battle. It's just all like, oh, you do basketball, you do this, da 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 da. And again, there are a lot of artists who legit that's what it is that they wanted to do, but there were some that literally was just on the block. They picked up a microphone and was just all like, yo, get on this track. And they're like, cool. Does that make them any less of artists or anything as far as good music, or do you have to be a musician or anything to make good music? No, I don't think that, you know I don't think that's a necessity, because to be able to appeal and relate to people, you're just doing it in a particular platform. How many people who aren't writers have like amazing books, amazing bestsellers, like, but they have an amazing story, so they could get someone. As far as this is like, that's how I see it when it comes to music sometimes. But more often than not, you have people that are not of color that are rewarded for doing the things that make them happy, like ridiculously. Like, here's everything, like, keep on doing the thing that make you happy. All the while, you have someone who has influence doing all this. Literally, there would be no D'Angelo or anything if there wasn't, as far as these originators that were making these moves. Yet, just historically speaking, it's something that continues to happen. The originators, the copies, being able to reap the rewards from the original. And this is, and when people have these discussions, even recently, Charles Barkley, and this is probably like the first like fully just thoughts on race type of podcast I've done, but it's just very interesting because they're all kind of connecting in this interesting way. But Charles Barkley was recently, actually, let me bring up the article, because again, that was I do read a lot of different articles, if you definitely couldn't tell. Let's go into the history here. There we go. Says Charles Barkley fires back at white privilege anger after Steve Nash hire. Now, Charles Barkley has made it known he's very disappointed in some of the reactions to the Brooklyn Nets hiring Steve Nash. Now, Stephen Smith chose to portray this hire as a case of white privilege, pointing to a number of black candidates, including former intern coach um, Jacques Vaughn, who were passed over. Now, Charles Barkley says that this is a white privilege. Um, this happens. There's been plenty of people like Doc Rivers and Jason Kidd, Derek Fisher, you know, and he's saying that, basically you can't be full of crap where you're talking about, something like race, and you gotta be honest. Um, and he goes on to say Steve Nash is a great player and a good dude, but I'm so disappointed in some of these guys. I was like, dude, black guys have done this before. Now, do we need more black coaches in the NBA? Yes. Do we need more black coaches in the college football? Yes. Do we need more black coaches in football, pro football? Yes. Now, again, this is what Charles Barkley just said. So basically, it seems like Charles Barkley, one black man, staying to another black man that you sitting up there saying that Steve Nash's hiring is white privilege. So you have these two, and again, it's great to have these healthy debates, like between, us and everything like that. Is every situation in that case, no. But you, Charles Barkley, you just basically contradicted yourself, because that's literally what Stephen Smith is saying. That you just said, does there need to be more black coaches? Yes, you literally said that. Now, do we need more black coaches in the NBA? Yes. Do we need more black coaches in college football? Yes. Do we need more black coaches in pro football? Yes. So you're saying that there is a need for this, but you're saying that because we've had several people, black people, who have done it, it's not impossible, basically. Because we have a few that have done it, you think this is reaching to say that this is a case of that privilege. And at this point, I'm not saying that we need to all agree with each other. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that we should be a little bit more cognizant of how we criticize our people in the type of debates that we have in public. Because this isn't the first time that Charles Barkley is taken this stance, basically, against, it's like he will acknowledge as far as the fact that there are issues that has to deal with race, but it's almost on this safe, let me, not say too much because of the paycheck type of thing. And let me, I will be the voice that, any black person in this field that says this, I'll be the one to step in and say something to counter that. This is why perception and perspective is very important. We have to know what is really going on within ourselves and just in general. What narratives are being displayed that aren't true? And the ones that are not true, where's the energy going to get that changed? All right, yeah, not every single thing has to deal with race, but let's really pinpoint and look at the ones that are. Instead of debating on whether or not, let's go to the ones that we can agree are the actual. There's historic proof, there's financial proof, there's current proof, there's data, everything to show that this is an issue that was the its root. No matter how it's grown to now, its root, and I think that's what a lot of people are not understanding, what we're seeing right now. That root is toxic. That root is racist. That root, that foundation, that was created in a toxic space. It's rotting. It is falling apart. And it doesn't matter how you trim the leaves of this tree, what its foundation, what that's on, is literally rotting. So it doesn't matter what things seem like right now. This is why getting to the root of the actual issue is the issue. What is the reasoning that these things are going on? This stemmed from this. You cannot sit up there and be like, okay, you can't acknowledge that things that happened in the 60s and 70s have an effect on today, and people who benefited from that have a benefit today from that. You cannot sit up there and acknowledge that fact, and then we get today and be like, it's your fault. It's your fault, this, and this. If you would have done this, and this. Because what ends up happening is people sit there, they're just like, well, damn. Again, it's not the fact that one works and the other one doesn't, or vice versa, or one doesn't work hard and the other one doesn't. It is the fact that you can have someone of color that's toiling away, doing all of the freaking craziest back-breaking type of stuff, and get completely ignored. They'll notice, but then they give the position to someone else. That's pretty much a sum up of this week, pretty much what's been going on in my mind, what I've been observing, and different things like that. My main thing at this point is I've been able to use Instagram Reels. I haven't dived too much into the mechanics on how it works. I did 2 of them yesterday, and so that's really cool. You know, being able to do that, I really like that. And so far, the first one that I did with no tags, other than lift us, that's like what I had, and that was within the thing. Literally, yeah. Right, so this is my first. I just did that, and then the one that I did the later one that I did yesterday has 107, and that one had a lot of tags in it. So I don't know if it's the type of tags, or maybe Reels at this point is at a good place to where I don't really need to do too many tags. It's just posting in there in general might just be good. So that's something I'm going to be, reflecting on this week, and kind of, thinking about next week. Doing some research on it and understanding, how it really works. Yeah, another thing that I really got into this week was getting the scheduling and things down. So, and just the priority. And you can listen to my podcast from yesterday. I kind of break down this little system that I created, and I want to definitely be able to apply it next week. We're coming off the last little remnants of this full moon energy. And right now it's just like getting in focus and just realizing that, this is the fourth quarter, but I want to switch it up as far as, just being more present, trying to find a healthy balance of like getting the necessary work done and having ample amount of time for rest and relaxation and recharging, because I feel like next year, man, I hope the people who needed the rest and recharge, which everybody does, but the ones that are gearing up for some stuff, because I don't think people really realize that. It's just all like, okay, once everything does go back, you're literally not gonna have this free time like you did have. And I wouldn't, and it's not necessarily free time to say like slack off or anything, but just this amount of time where things aren't as pressing. You, in some cases, gotta find like stuff to do or different things like that. Man, this is gonna be a completely, we'll see. But yeah, this is the next episode of the composition with Mr. Composition MC that writes fiction. If you like this, you want to drop a little voice message, you can listen to this on the Anchor app, and just through your phone you can leave a voice recording that I'll get, and I can download it and add it to the next episode. So that would be cool. If you are liking this, add me to the playlist if you're listening on your favorite podcast streaming platform, or if you're on YouTube. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe, and that notification bell. Right now, I'm working on consistency, so, working on, well, everything else will build up from that, because I have a lot of the experience with a lot of that other stuff. So things like making thumbnails that work and everything like that, and, editing a certain way, I can find out how to do it, or in some cases I already do it. But that's not been the issue. The issue has been the consistency. So that's why, we're doing this. So this is the third week down. 12 more weeks to go. Holla at y'all next week. Make sure to stop by the shop. The support is always and very much appreciated, especially during this time. You get a shirt, you can get an album, you can get a book, you can get CBD, you can get my services. Again, that's dabtro.com/shop, and it's going to be in the description. And make sure to check out my new song, Lift Us. That'll be on the description as well. That'll be on, all platinum or all streaming platforms later on this week, but you'll at least be able to hear it on SoundCloud right now. So this is Mr. Composition. Peace.